All right, hello everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you are in the right place, this should be the sales and networking panel. Today we're going to be talking about making the sale when you can't meet face-to-face. And before we get started, I just want to give a couple brief announcements for the Business Council. I have 3 for you today, and I'll keep it short. The first one is our COVID-19 Recovery Center on our website. We've updated this with some up-to-date vaccination information. So if you want to know how to register or all your different options, I guess, want to learn some facts that the local hospitals have put out, you can go to that on our website. If you go to businesswilliamsburg.com, it's the little red ribbon right at the top of the page that'll take you to our COVID-19 Recovery Center. So that's announcement number 1. Number 2 is that Courtney, if you've been on this call before, this meets every, I think it's the first or second Tuesday, every month. Courtney's usually here, but she and I do a live Facebook Business Council Buzz every Friday morning. So if you're interested in that to get all of the latest news and events, everything that's going on here at the Business Council, tune into Facebook on Friday mornings. We go live at 9:15 every single week. And then my third announcement for today is that we have our networking blitz coming up. This is a really exciting event that's going to be happening on February 24th at 5:30 p.m. It's a Wednesday. And it's kind of a new way to do virtual networking. It is, instead of one big Zoom call where only one person can talk at once, we've got a new setup with a Blitzer platform, which allows for this like high energy one-on-one speed networking with a lot of different people. So it's a really fun new platform that we're excited to be using. And if you want to register for that event, you can do so on our website or just send me an email after this is over. So we hope to see you at that one. Those are all of my announcements. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel for today briefly. We have Chris Harris, who is with Refuse Ordinary. We've got Mark Bernecker with Cloud9, Chris Vasquez at Morningside Assisted Living, and our special guest panelist this morning is Amber Saloka, and she is with Chesapeake Bank, as you can tell from her lovely background. So thank you so much for everybody tuning in today. I'm going to go ahead and kick off the call by passing it over to Chris Vasquez. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all for joining us today on this muggy Tuesday. And we're all dealing during COVID, the situation of not being able to meet our clients face to face. Really has changed the sales game from the bottom up. So I'm going to talk about the process that I utilize when doing sales to close sales without being able to come face to face with any potential clientele. Now, the process that I find most effective is utilizing a initial phone call. It could be a cold call. It could be an inquiry call, going to a Zoom meeting, videos, and then finishing off on another Zoom meeting. What I mean by that is your initial phone call, like I said, whether it be a cold call or an inquiry call that you're following up with, that's very important because you have to find out some key information. You want to do some discovery during that phase. What I mean by discovery is you want to discover why that person is looking for your potential service. Now, if you're selling advertising, if you're selling assisted living, if you're selling carpet cleaning, no matter what it may be. So step 1, find out why they're looking so that the additional steps behind that can be prioritized to those needs. Secondly, you want to find out who the decision-making person is in the entire process. Now, you could be talking to someone, for instance, I work in assisted living. Now, I could have someone's third cousin calling me just trying to do some footwork for somebody. However, the power of attorney, that decision maker, is going to be ultimately the adult child. So I want to make sure when I set up my next meeting with them, I have that decision maker online with me. So before you hang up on that initial phone call, again, if it was a cold call, whatever the case may be, you want to have that Zoom meeting set up. Now, with the Zoom meeting, you have to make sure that you also invite those decision makers. And now, step number 2, when you do get that Zoom appointment set up, make sure you're ready. During that discovery phase, the initial call, you want to make sure you can highlight your services or your product to benefit that individual. But again, most importantly, make sure that decision maker is on there. So when you finally get on that Zoom call with everyone, the entire group, whoever it may be, you're going to have even a larger discovery phase. Now, what I mean by that is you're going to get really in-depth questions. That's where you want to start really chipping into why they're looking for that service and how can you benefit that individual. Now, if you're great you might be able to close a sale that day. That'd be perfect. Is that ideal? Probably not. A lot of people still want to do their homework. They want to do reviews, things along that nature. So you're going to close that meeting out with them, but you're going to follow up with them with some videos or some slides and things of that nature. Now, I use an app called One Day. Now, One Day app is absolutely fantastic for really showcasing products, especially senior living. Each of the videos that get sent to the individual categorizes your community. So it starts off with a great intro. Now, with these videos or slideshows or whatever the case may be, after learning what their real needs are from the discovery phase, you could take that information and tailor your videos for your PowerPoint slides or your demos, whatever the case may be, to their needs or their most important factors and ship them out to them. Now, you don't want to end it there, because let's be honest, any sale that isn't closed is up for grabs. So once you initially send out those videos, you might want to give them a couple days, send out the slides, give them a couple days to really think about it and take in the information. Prior to the end of that first Zoom call, you want to have a second Zoom call set up, and that's going to be your closing phase. Now, we're going to move that to the last phase of my process, the closing phase. Most importantly, number one rule of closing, don't read off a script. Anyone in sales, anyone in the world can understand if you're reading off a script, especially if you're on a Zoom meeting. Now, if you're not making eye contact with an individual on the call, they're going to know this is just a script. So that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Chris Harris to fill you in a little bit more. Chris?
Do I read my script?
Nah.
What I'd like to do is expand, as I usually do with Chris. Chris basically gave you a really pretty good, straightforward process. So here are the steps you need to do. What I want to do is give a little spin on the ball, give you a little mojo for the different things that you're going to be doing. So when I think virtual selling, I think anything that doesn't require face-to-face. So probably other than Telegram, the oldest one is phone that we use. And a lot of us have gone back to the phone. My business partner, Will Turner, shared a story about he was at Virginia Tech many moons ago. And he hadn't seen his girlfriend in basically about 8 months. And he called her. And about halfway through the conversation, she said, "Do you miss me?" I said, "Yeah." Because you don't sound like it at all. "No, I really miss you." "Well, you really don't sound like you miss me at all." What the point of the story is, if you don't sound excited and you sound a little monotone on the phone, you're kind of missing an opportunity to really impress this person. So what I suggest folks do is listen to yourself on the phone. Are you being a little monotone, meaning you're not really your highs and lows? So for example, would you like to see a demo? It's very different than, would you like to see a demo maybe? That was my worst William Shatner, but what I'm going for here is show some range on that phone when they can't hear you. Anything that requires them to lean in a little bit with their ear, you're grabbing their attention a little more and they're paying attention. And of course, smile when you're on the phone too, because if you're smiling, you're at least in a good mood, even if they hang up on you, which does happen. Zoom call. So there's this whole thing about the Zoom fatigue that's going on because we're doing it right now and our brains are exploding. Amber's going to actually talk a little bit more about that. One of the things that can happen when you're in a Zoom call, and I realize most of us have been doing it for about a year, is you are your worst critic. You are your own worst critic. Seeing your face up during a Zoom session or even a sales pitch can really screw you up. Any way you can get your image out of there and pin, if you've got multiple people, pin the person you want to talk to or the person that you feel you're connecting to. So at least you feel like you're talking to another human being, but get rid of your own image because all it's going to do is scramble your brain and take you off your game a little bit. And again, bring a little more enthusiasm to the whole thing with Zoom. Some things that I've encountered with folks, particularly in the first 6 months, now it's not so bad, is back when you were doing sales before COVID, you probably had a fairly systemized approach to doing it. It was probably unlike, just like Chris said, you may have a process of making a pre-call, then sending out an email, then confirming it, then having all your stuff, whether you had a packet or whatnot, ready to go. All too often, there's small little glitches that happen when you're going virtual. And it might be that your process is really not nailed down. What I mean by the people that interacted with you 3 months ago, are they having the identical experience with you now? And are they going to have the identical experience with you 3 months from now? So really, have you really nailed down your processes? If you're using a new platform and you're going to Google Meets versus Zoom or whatever it is, have you practiced with that technology enough to really smooth out every single one of those glitches? Have you made sure your test code, like the codes that you're sending, are they nailed down? Are they perfect? Think about the sales process that you have back then, and is it consistent now? And what are some ways that you can improve it? I know Chris said you definitely don't want to seem like you're reading from a script, but there are some things you can template, like your response emails, like if you've got an initial email that goes out, a confirmation email, they can all be templated. It saves you time, but it also gives you time to really hone in that language to make sure that it's good. But you can customize the top part of it to make it personalized. You know, like, hey, Mark, really enjoyed talking about seeing you and all the fun that you had when you went on the hunting trip up in PA. That can be at the beginning, and then everything else is standardized at the end. But template stuff, the same thing with your follow-up emails, all that good stuff. Since we're using this stuff, video and different platforms, we have access to all kinds of different bells and whistles that we may initially be a little uncomfortable with, but try to create with tech, try to create the most unique selling experience that you can come up with that still works. So Chris has talked about demos, and Mark, you're going to really dive into how to put together a good demo, but make them interactive if you can. So if you can use some way to actually give them control of the cursor or give them control of the presentation, it makes them feel like they're actually a part and in control of the sale somewhat. Some of that pressure to buy something will go away, and their buy-in will go up just by giving them control of the process a little bit. The most unique thing that I've seen is if you're doing properties or some sort of large product, think like heavy equipment, slap on a GoPro on your head and walk around and film the thing. So they have hands-on POV, point of view experience with what they're doing. If you're going to use forms and surveys afterwards, like, what did you think about X, Y, and Z? I'd really like to get your input on that. You can use different platforms, like Wufoo is a great survey platform, or Google Forms is another one that you can send it out to. In my industry, which is the training and educational industry, we love stringing things together in some sort of educational process, like we call them modules, but there's like a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. In your sales, you can create the same thing. So anything you can send them pregame. Here's the 4 biggest questions we get from clients in your situation, and here are the different solutions. And you send that pregame, like, here's the video 1, video 2, video 3, and you package it and send them. They're already well informed about what you do. They're probably, if they're going to follow up with you afterwards, they're probably a little more excited to buy something. But see if you can use that, what we call the pre-recorded educational series approach with this new tech that you have. And different platforms, if you want to monetize it, like you want to sell a process, you can use different platforms like Thinkific, Simplero, or Kajabi, which is the all-inclusive one, to where you can actually monetize some sort of series that you've put together, which is a really cool thing to do. But back it up a little bit. I can't stress how important demoing the product, particularly when they can't see it in person, or the service for that matter. And Mark, what's the secret sauce there? What are the components to a perfect demo?
Well, thanks, Chris, and I'll probably cover a couple things you've already covered. But I think the secret sauce is the delivery needs to be crisp, and it needs to be specific and not overwhelming, because this format that we're in right now, just all of us being on the call, it can be literally overwhelming. So, and like this, disruptions, et cetera, can throw the presentation completely off. I happen to be with, a product where, we have to present it to the customer. We got to show them things. So I think from a demo standpoint, this platform has, created an opportunity that we did not have before, COVID. I wasn't doing demos at all via, web-based. Now I'm doing a couple times a week, and the best part of the delivery has been just the simplicity of it, but also the making it interactive. So, with what we have, for example, we actually can, what Chris was saying, we can actually give our customer, the mouse control to actually play around with our product. But the key to doing that is making sure that basically every web browser that you're going to engage in, you have those pre-opened and you have tested those before you even dive into that call, because there's nothing worse than getting in a demo and the technology not working. Happened to me on my very first one. I wasn't prepared. I thought, hey, click here, click there, boom, done. And one of the key components of the demo was not working. And it didn't ruin the sale, but it definitely downgraded the experience. And that would have been something that would have had happened in person. But in the world we're in today, you got to test the product. Then Chris mentioned many platforms. We tend to use Microsoft Teams the most. I'm just sharing that because it is, Zoom is awesome, but Microsoft is definitely the most secure platform out there. I will tell you that because I deal with technology people. So that's a really great program, and it's very, flexible and agile in how you use it. But definitely make sure you test all hiccups before you dive into the presentation. And also, going back to Chris, at both Chris's, making sure you rehearse what you're going to deliver, particularly if you're going to have some of your partners on there. You got to have that clean. It's nothing, even if you're in person with a customer, if you guys are hiccuping all over the place, it's actually going to come across worse on video. So definitely, shore that up. Then the other thing that you can do, let's flip it from a demo standpoint to actually a quote presentation. One of the worst sales failures is emailing a quote to someone. Like if you email a quote to someone, that is like the kiss of death. There's no chance to defend your proposal, talk about the key components in a proposal. There's none of that. You're hitting the send button, it's gone, and you're praying for a call back. And then when you go to call them back and they're not answering and you try 7 times, you know why. There was something in the quote that hit them the wrong way and you had no chance at it. I'm very direct from a sales approach standpoint. If I've engaged a customer, I've gone out, we've had a lengthy meeting, a lot of notes taken, and I got to spend hours on a proposal, I'm going to present that proposal to the person in person, and I'm going to outline everything and describe everything within the quote. Well, we can do that just via Zoom. So my recommendation on what I do, and it works every time, is schedule the Zoom call, prepare your presentation. Maybe you have to put it in a PowerPoint template. Maybe it's a meeting link to the quote. We have a quoting machine. I basically get them online in the chat message. I say, click on here, and boom, there's a quote, and we walk through it. That allows me at least the opportunity to defend the quote and what I sent them, ask questions, and still get a read on the prospective client from a facial standpoint. I at least get that. Then the last thing I wanted to mention, which is really big, and some people are using this technology, some people are not, is business SMS, and which is SMS is a short message service. So many people are not answering their phone anymore. Everything's text. There is very cheap technology out there. The business SMS service is really cheap, where you can You can send out just basic specials that you're advertising, confirmation appointments. I'll use we have a realtor who puts a link on their realtor sign. People go scan it. It takes them right to their website so they can, view the house and everything about the house. Other companies can integrate that technology into your website where they basically hit chat button, and you're not having an online chat. It's a texting chat back and forth. But I would strongly recommend that, particularly right now when people are, a little reserved about seeing one another. It's a very cheap technology that has been working tremendously for us. So that's all I got. And I think Amber's going to go over more platforms.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think the important thing to note is ensuring that you're choosing the correct platform and the most effective platform, depending on which stage of discovery that you are in with that specific customer. I know for myself, so I'm a little bit different. So I do business development for Chesapeake Bank. And so my role is to work with existing customers and new customers and build relationships. So realistically, if I'm in that cold call stage, right now it's really hard to do cold calls when you're not face to face, right? So the most effective way to manage those are to, use your COIs, use email, researching the prospect too, before you're having that conversation, right? Knowledge is power. So the more that you know, the more likely that you are to move forward on that next stage, and the more knowledgeable you look as well. As Mark mentioned, I think text messaging is super important. We've got different platforms with the bank that we're able to use to text customers. They can actually text our branch and we can respond back. We've got a lot of our folks that actually have business, cell phones now, where we're texting back and forth with our customers in order to communicate. I think that Zoom fatigue is real, right? So there are a lot of folks right now that just would prefer not to get on Zoom if they don't have to. And honestly, if you're having one of the first stage conversations with that customer, it's almost easier to have a conversation over the phone than it is through Zoom, just because of the awkward breaks that sometimes Zoom can have, because you're not sure who's next to speak, or if somebody is actually starting to say something and then they're getting cut off, and you just sometimes have this awkward lags in Zoom as opposed to a phone call, when it is more of just a natural conversation, almost like you are face to face, as opposed to that Zoom world that we're kind of in right now. So yes, Zoom fatigue is very real. If you have the option in that discovery or that first call phase to not hop on Zoom, I almost would recommend it, because it's almost a little bit easier to have those conversations with customers. And of course, there are times where you have to use those platforms, right? If you need to do a screen share or a demo, or you want to see them face to face. But honestly, I'm kind of sick of seeing my own face on Zoom these days. So I'm going to actually take Chris's pointer and pin someone else's face so I don't have to see mine. With that being said, too, you need to add your own personal touches too. You want to make sure that your personality is still coming through, because that can still be hard too, right? Ensuring that that person is getting to know you, because those personal connections are actually what help make that sale and move forward. So it's about still ensuring that you're not feeling awkward also too on Zoom, having those practice sessions that, Chris had mentioned. I think those are very important too, that you're not losing your personal touch, because a lot of the times your personality is almost what's going to sell that product as well. So you just want to make sure that you're adding those to that. And it's just important to give the customer options, right? So I know that I touched on that, whether it be like a webinar or, a Zoom platform or a phone call, text messaging. We've got so many different platforms that we're using right now. Just from our perspective from the bank, we're giving customers now, not every customer wants to meet face to face, but some do. So we still have that option to, wear a mask and socially distance in a bank branch or whatever that may be. But you have some folks also too that aren't comfortable doing that yet. So we have different platforms, right? If a customer wants to come in and open an account, great. Come on in, we can handle that. Or if you want us to send you documents electronically, it's also to ensuring that you have that technology that you can handle doing things virtually as opposed to doing them in person as well. So if you're seeing that there's something there that is causing some sort of disconnect, definitely speak up too at your business to ensure that you have those technology pieces in place, because I have a feeling for a while, virtual is not going to go away, right? There's always going to now be the option to choose between meeting in person or meeting virtually. So it's got to be something that we're continuously improving on and making sure that that technology piece is consistently there. And then also too, I'm a little bit different. So I have where I guess you would want to maybe call them complex sales, or maybe sales that are just a little bit different. So I partner with different departments at the bank in various conversations with customers. So I partner a lot with Chesapeake Payment Systems or cash flow department, whatever that may be. So it's really important that if you also too are working with various partners or maybe vendors that you work with together in regards to assisting with different sales along the way, ensuring that you have a great relationship with those folks as well, and that you're meshing, whether it be a conversation face-to-face or whether it be virtually as well. I know that for myself, if I'm on a call with, just as an example, if it's Chesapeake Payment Systems, I'm ensuring that I'm also too having a relationship with those folks. I'm on the phone with them before our call with a customer to ensure that we're on the same page, that we know where this conversation is heading, that we know where the flow is going, who's going to talk first, who's going to do the introduction, et cetera. So that way that also too, that call isn't awkward or clunky, because if you're not meshing and you're not, throwing down like your best A game with your partner, honestly, the customer's not going to be sold. They're going to understand and see, whether it be virtually or in person, that you're not meshing with that business partner. So it's really ensuring too that you have those solid relationships built with various lines of business or, vendors or whomever you're dealing with, to ensure that that sale is really just whole and encompassed all in one with, the various departments and vendors that you're working with. But outside of that, I don't know, Chris, Mark, was there anything else that you wanted to add in addition to that, or maybe even to any of you folks that are on the call, any questions that you might have as well?
Zach, unfortunately, you're the guy that I pinned, so I'm looking right at you the whole time. Do you have any questions? I can't hear you. I'm sure it's really important what you got to say.
You guys hear me?
Now we can.
There we go.
Yeah. I don't have questions. I was thinking about when we were selling when not to face-to-face. So we are in face-to-face. So our business, I'm the junk luggers of Williamsburg. So we're a junk removal company. So we actually are face-to-face, and we go estimate based on what we see in people's homes and basically sell on site. But where I was trying to see where some of this information could help is we do have people who call in over the phone asking for a ballpark.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is try to paint a picture. So we have some go-to items like a regular 3-seater couch. We can compare that to what that price range would be, and that gives a customer a better idea of what they can expect a price to be from us. So it's not necessarily giving them an email proposal like Mark you were talking about, but it's giving them a better idea. So hopefully we'd be able to sell it to them.
Yeah, and that's usually a great strategy, is give them kind of a range of somebody that's been in a similar situation, and that's whether you're a B2B or B2C situation. And honestly, but you have to put a disclaimer in there. I give you this range, but we could be completely off when we get there. I just want to be honest. And I realize you kind of need to have a budget you're working with. So I'll be as honest as I can in this situation. And I'm sure, Amber, you'd probably find up in the, because they're asking for what's all it's going to cost, and you need to go neck deep in financials before you could even say anything. Plus, you have the whole compliance issue.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the middle is where that's going to land.
No, yeah, and I agree, and I think it's even too, Zach, it might be a little bit different too, but I think asking, important, like open-ended questions about, asking the customer to tell, more about what you're looking for, and even asking too, what have you looked at, pricing wise that's been, comparative to, what we do, is there anything else different that you found that's, stark difference, price wise? And then maybe too, just even asking if you could follow up with them after the conversation to ensure, that they found something along the way, or if they could just follow up to see if there's anything comparative that they found that maybe, you can work with, or maybe, I'm not sure if you have a platform where there's a little bit of flexibility with pricing,
Right.
but, the follow up there might be important as well.
And I'm a strong believer for it's a two-way street. I think most consumers are like, I don't want to show my cards. I don't want them to know how much money I got, and I want to get the best deal. Yeah, we're human. We want that, but it's definitely a two-way street. When I have people, when I ask them, so what kind of, they're asking me what ballpark can I get? I said, well, if I'm going to, particularly if you're in customization of proposals or anything that's got a lot of room in it, can you give me a ballpark of what you're trying to shoot for to see if we're even on the same page? If you're really into custom building stuff, custom designing stuff, whether it's a proposal, product, or service, the best analogy I use, the real estate analogy, I'm like, look, you're trying to get me to custom build a home and you won't even tell me how much money you got. I'll give you a range. Just tell me if we're in the same ballpark. They'll laugh a little bit and they'll say, well, no, I'm trying to get it under $500. I'm trying to get it under okay. Yeah, I can work with that. Let me see what I can do. But having that honest conversation up front will help both parties. And I will say that I don't want to waste your time, and I'm sure you don't want to waste mine. So let's at least kind of get on the same page here. And that gosh, I've been using that since '98, just to save my soul so many times. Mark is going,
I say, hey, Zach, do you get their phone number up front, like when they initially call before you dive in?
What do you mean? We're talking about with Zach?
And is it, yeah.
So most of the time, go ahead.
You do? You do?
So most of the time, we have an appointment center. They're based in Connecticut, and that's where most of the calls go. Sometimes, so like I'll sometimes get calls to my phone, and it's just somebody asking about it, and so that's how I get it. I don't get any numbers before that, but sometimes I have the appointment center sending me, hey, this customer is looking for an estimate, and then I try to get in contact with them from there. So it really varies on where the initial call is coming from.
Yeah, I was curious how your call routing was, because sometimes if you have the direct number, you have it saved on your, your mobile device or your desktop or whatever. But if you can't see it, I'm always like, yeah, just in case we get disconnected, I want to verify your number,
Yes.
Just for follow up. So I was curious what you did within your business.
Right, and so with Home Advisor leads, they come with a tracking number. So that's a platform where we need to make sure that we're asking for their actual number, because those numbers can expire.
Yeah.
I think that all plays into your discovery phase, though. You could probably, and again, kind of what Chris had said, you can't send somebody something, but and assume they're going to stick to it. And what I mean by that is you could send out a quote and just have to let them know that, yes, this is only a quote. But during that discovery phase, you could find out a little bit more, if they, someone says, hey, your junk removal from my house. Well, I mean, some houses are 1,400 square feet, some are 5,000 square feet. Like, where are we talking about? And then you might be able to, pinpoint a better ballpark for them, but always, let them know that this is just a quote until we actually see the actual project.
Right.
So what else do we have from folks that are watching? Julia and Stephanie Bradley had two on, so one of them was definitely not a Stephanie, but I didn't know if there are any questions from the audience that either one of us could field pertaining to selling either in person or virtual or whatever.
I appreciate that. My camera's not working, so I'm not the lady in the dark, but I appreciate the feedback. I work for Visit Williamsburg in sales, so I understand the challenges of staying in touch with your clients and trying to actually differentiate yourself from the competition. We've been doing a lot of Zooms and a lot of scheduled sales calls, just trying to generate group business and overnight accommodation for the destination. So I think it's all good stuff. I'm just trying to say that we're here, we want you, to your point, saying like, we miss you and we're excited to see you come back. And we are certainly that the governor improves our restrictions with groups of 10 or less. So I appreciate it.
Sure. Did you have a specific question you wanted to throw out at us?
No, I mean, I was really happy to just see folks basically doing the same sales practices as far as Zooming and setting up presentations. We're working on some virtual FAMs that take people to the destination without having to leave the safety and security, or really the comfort level of their home or their office. Moving forward, I do like that GoPro idea, and we've done some great stuff. We've used some drone technology and drone footage as well, and that's been really exciting. When I do calls, you know, I think the Zoom fatigue is a real thing. I've seen, I've had some success with SurveyMonkey, because people need to respond and you can call them out if they haven't. So
right.
I had some good success with that. And then just for me in our segment, I've also just been really watching kind of our aspirational and inspirational competitive set, as well as those top tier destinations, to see what they're doing. So, I mean, I do think that there's inspiration from your competition always.
Yeah, call to action social media is a really big deal right now.
Yeah. Can't hear you, Stephanie. We see you trying. So you can write it on a piece of paper.
There we go.
And hold it up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There, that famous statement. I'm filling in for Lisa Bates, who's our chief marketing officer. We're doing our second round of COVID vaccines today.
Great.
So she's tied up with that, as well as our communications coordinator. I'm in sales here at Williamsburg Landing, and we've been busy since COVID. We do a little bit of virtual here. I mean, I've had to send out some videos. We've had some videos basically showing some of our properties here, but a lot of our clients that we deal with as being retirees are still on the phone, emails, texting. We still do a lot of face-to-face here. We have been hindered because of the surge of COVID at the beginning of the year. We had to take a step back and really restrict some of our visitation, but now we're still restricted. But if somebody is moving, we have a strong wait list. So many times we're dealing with people that have been waiting to come into our community. So we are able to make arrangements for them to go into vacant homes, but we're struggling with the fact that we can't get in until it's vacated due to some of our restrictions. So I think we certainly have a long way to go with regard to how we may be dealing with things in the future, but doing well. But currently my team with regards to sales is not using as much of the virtual with our clients.
Do you think it would help, or do you think it's not necessary?
I think it will help as we get more involved with the younger baby boomers coming on. You know, someone had mentioned they're not picking up the phone. And that's true. I do leave a lot of messages, but a lot of our wait list clients, they might not pick up the phone, but they'll call right back. And everybody is forced to use email a little bit more than they did in the past. I think we're just on a curve. We're going to start using a lot more of it in the future. I have actually gotten depositors that have sent in a substantial amount to put down sight unseen. They haven't stepped 1 foot on our community, because I was able to share some of the things that we have on our website prior to, and they've been sold by our conversations. A little bit of virtual, but not a lot at this point.
You know, Stephanie, I'm gonna chime in here. I agree with you 100%. I work for Morningside Assisted Living and Memory Care, and when I'm dealing more with the adult child making the decisions, you know, for the memory care placement and things along the line, they're more geared to the videos, geared to the technology. Now, on the opposite end of that, if we're looking for an assisted living placement, Morningside, and it's the actual individual themselves, maybe they're in their late 80s looking for an assisted living placement, you're absolutely right. I'd say 9 out of 10 times they don't even, you know, they don't know how to open up a Zoom. They don't know how to open up the files. If you send them a video, even a simple PDF, they're more inclined to the phone calls or old brochures. I'll tell you, they tell you, hey, can you send a packet to my house?
Yes.
And absolutely. And you just got to kind of keep working with their, you know, preferred method. So I agree with you 100%. And once the baby boomers do start kind of moving in, then we'll see more of that really take off in total.
Yes, absolutely. I have some clients that still can't even answer their cell phone. I'm sorry to say that, but we'll get there, but we're not as many of the baby boomers quite yet.
Right.
And Zach, I was glad to hear, so were you here in the Williamsburg area?
Yes, we're based out of Towano, and we service the entire peninsula up to New Kent and West Point and Gloucester as well.
Wonderful, because we have a lot of people that are downsizing and are always looking for ways to do that. So it sounds like you would be a perfect person for them to connect with.
Absolutely. I was going to reach out to both you and Chris after this and see if we could set up a time to talk.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for everybody joining in today. If you have another question, feel free to cut me off. But we are always open for new topics. So if there's something that you want to dive into more, the panel would love to hear that. You can email me or anyone here and let us know what you'd be interested in hearing about. Thank you so much for joining today. It was really exciting to hear all the different perspectives and have different industries represented on the call. But I just wanted to give a special thank you also to our guest panelist, Amber. Thanks for coming out and speaking, giving your insight. If there aren't any more comments, I'll go ahead and end the call and we'll leave it at that. But thank you guys so much for coming out today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, good
Thanks for
seeing
having us.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Good seeing everybody.